Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zanker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zanker, and I'm your host. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how to help you through that brain fog that you might be experiencing during COVID. Anybody who's had COVID, you might have experienced that brain fog through COVID. But let's face it, we had brain fog before there was COVID, and we still have brain fog. So it's got to be something else, right? So let's talk about that. And we have a wonderful expert with us today. And I'm always looking for those people who are going to give you new insights. So pay attention, have a pen and pencil ready for some notes, because Tanessa Shears is here with us today, and she's kinesthesiologist, certified sleep science coach, and health consultant who helps entrepreneurs to double their energy and focus so that they can make more money in their businesses with her 12 Becoming Limitless protocols. Now, before I introduce her, I want you to know that's not just for entrepreneurs. That's also for you if you're working within an organization or even a stay-at-home parent or whatever you're doing. It's about energy and focus and getting rid of that brain fog. And she works closely with people to help to eliminate that brain fog and to wake up well-rested so that you can get more done in less time. And what I would say is accomplish more in less time, not necessarily have to do more to accomplish more. And she helps us to also maintain that stable energy throughout the day so that we can feel good about ourselves. So without further ado, Tanessa, welcome to the show.
Hey, Penny, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So you use that word intentionally, brain fog. So let's start there. What is brain fog and why do we have it?
Yeah, it's so funny. You can't walk into a doctor's office and get diagnosed with brain fog because it's kind of a collection of symptoms. It's like when you're constantly forgetting things, like you're like, I can't forget, where did I put the car keys? Where's my wallet? What's the name of that person, right? Or you find you're getting easily distracted, whether you're trying to watch a TV show or maybe you're at work and your brain can't stay focused. And I liken it to, if you were to go running on the beach and you can do it, but it's like inefficient and harder. I feel like brain fog is like thinking through sand. It's like you can do it, but it's ineffective and you're not very creative. It's just not a good feeling. You're feeling tired all the time. And when we're looking at what causes it, it's inflammation in our body that is coming up from usually one of three places. It's either we're not getting enough quality sleep, it's something to do with what we're eating or the times that we're eating, or it's stress, some stress that is not being addressed and letting it run rampant. And these are the things that create brain fog most of the time.
Wow. Well, so that's interesting. So are you saying that those three things, but they create inflammation and the inflammation is creating the brain fog?
Correct. Yeah.
I like hearing it in that way, right? It's a different perspective. We've often heard that it's about the stress and the distraction but that's interesting, right? That's the impact that it has on the body, and that's the body's reaction. So let's start there, and then maybe we'll go into each of those. So how do we reduce inflammation? Let's say, most people, they're feeling this brain fog. Let's face it, World Health Organization declared a stress epidemic, or what is it? Yeah, epidemic. So back in, I think it was 2019 or previous to that. So stress is definitely a regular part of our lives that we haven't been able to manage. How do we better manage that stress? And how do we use those other two pieces, sleep and nutrition, to help us if we can't change other things in our lives?
Yeah, I think it's by looking at how they all interplay so nicely together, or maybe not nicely. But when we have that stress that goes on, we often think, I need to do more. I need to do all of these things. And we always feel behind and we're not enough and we're not getting enough done. And we feel that constant need and that stress. And not only does the elevated cortisol affect us, but when we're constantly needing to get more done just for the sake of feeling like enough, what's the first thing that goes? Well, we're usually staying up a little later, getting up a little earlier, and that cuts into sleep. And when we don't get effective sleep, our hormones don't do their job. We are hungrier and our cravings are all over the place, which makes us reach for food that cause these crazy blood sugar swings, which leads to brain fog and energy crashes, right? And then naturally, if we're not sleeping well, our brains don't get the chance to recover and recharge from the day before. So we show up the next day feeling like we're more overwhelmed, feeling exhausted and tired, and then trying to manage the stress of that day on a brain that's already feeling exhausted to start the day. So we're looking at kind of this interplay of them. But to address your question of like, what are we going to do? It's not like we can snap our fingers and make stress go away. I like to really look at this idea of resilience, meaning like if you're doing something right now, like you're going through a divorce or you're moving, these are big stressors, right? That state, they're not something we can just go through instantly. And I really like to look at this idea of building resilience, meaning like our capacity to hold that stress without letting it break us down in those type of moments. And so you can do that through a bunch of ways. You can do that through exercise. You can do that through sleep. And then there's a couple of cool biohacky ideas we can talk about too that are helpful.
We want cool biohacky ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about what resilience is, it is adding intentional stress to the system to increase your capacity for it. And I don't mean like go get in an argument with someone, that kind of stress. I'm looking at things like heat exposure actually acts as a stressor on the body, which causes us to build up our resilience. Another really good one, cold exposure. You've probably heard that cold showers are kind of a thing you might have been hearing about. Well, nobody just jumps in a cold shower for fun. The reason for that is it allows our adrenaline to increase so that we can adapt to those levels of stress. And I think another really good resilience builder that we're all aware of is exercise. It's a stressor. It breaks down body tissues. It causes adrenaline and cortisol to go up, also that you can come back stronger. And so these are tools that I like to put in place to help not only just feel like you can manage the stress of the day, but how you build capacity for it so that it doesn't wear you down.
Yeah, totally. If I think about the most stressful times in my life, so 2008 was this like crazy year where like everything happened at once. And I think you can share some of your stories, and I'm sure that people who are listening can think about how they navigated difficult times. The first thing that I did was I allowed myself to get more sleep. I went to bed with my kids. My kids were young. I was like, okay, I'm just going to bed. And that extra sleep definitely helped. I got more exercise because I decided that was a way, because it's about letting go, right? Of letting it out of the body, the stress, or as you're saying, it's letting it in and whatever. But I kind of view it as letting it go, that it releases the stress while it might be putting other stressors on. It releases my mental stress anyway. And so it's funny. So those are the things that I felt better and helped me to manage the stresses that I had. And I used to be a huge mountain biker. And I found in those times when I was working like a lot of hours in my startup business, it was that mountain biking and the challenge of climbing these mountains. And as hard as it was, when you get to the top, it's so euphoric. But I do believe that it made me overall more resilient and be able to handle that stress in such a much calmer and easy way. So I can personally relate to that. How have you seen people responding to these types of things through exercise, through nutrition, and through sleep?
Yeah, well, I agree with you on the exercise. It's an outlet, right? And it helps boost those endorphins and those feel-good chemicals. And I think it also allows you to have space and time away from whether it's your job, your business, your family, and allows you to just plug back into you, right? And I mean, for me, I have two very small kids right now. They're 1 and they're 3. So I am not far out of that crazy first 6 months or so where your sleep is disrupted. And it was in those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, it's one of those moments where you'd almost be like, why even bother working on my sleep? It's never going to get messier than this. But that's actually when my first daughter was born, is when I really leaned into getting better sleep, because I think we focus on the sleep we are getting. And if we can make that quality, it does help. And so that was actually the first time that I was like, hey, well, if I'm going to be up 3 times and it's going to be all funky, how can I make sure that sleep is solid? And that's when I started really understanding like how color and tone of light affect our brain, meaning like red light winds us down, blue, white lights like our phone and our TV wind our brain up. And if we cool our body down at night, it helps us fall asleep and stay asleep. If we warm it up, it helps us stay awake and alert. And really kind of understanding what levers I could pull so that I could get good sleep, because I'm a firm believer that there's not all these equal pillars of health to focus on. I think sleep's the foundation on which everything else is built. Like, it's very hard to manage your mood, your emotions, your hunger, your cravings, stay motivated enough to get your workouts done if you're feeling exhausted. So since it's free and we're doing it anyways, I like to start there. I find it's one of the safest and like most result-oriented ways to build resilience.
Sure. Absolutely. So I actually hadn't heard about, or maybe I just didn't know, was red light. So when you're wearing those specific glasses, right? Like, aren't those blue light blockers, are they red? Is that the point? Or is this a hack that we haven't heard of and don't know about?
Yeah, it's actually super neat. So your body has an internal clock that's built in that tells your body, release this hormone at this time, feel tired at this time, feel awake at this time. And light is actually one of the most potent stimulators of this body clock. So when our brain perceives red light, think back to before we had indoor electricity and we were all sitting around the campfire at the end of the night. That was what used to tell our brain, hey, it's time to wind down right now. And our brains produce this hormone called melatonin, and it helps us fall asleep and have great sleep. But now we stare into our phones, our TVs, our computers right until we go to sleep. And this is the equivalent of telling your brain, it's the middle of the day. We should be wide awake right now. You need to be busy. You need to be focused. You need to be alert. And then we find we have struggles with quality sleep, right? So there's two hacks that you can do with this. One is there are certain blue light blocking glasses that have red lenses in them. They work fantastic if you need to be in an environment that is very well lit. They help to calm my brain down, wind me down. The other thing that you can do, in my bedroom, one of our bedside tables has a red light bulb in it, and the other one has a regular light bulb. So in the mornings, we flip on the white light, and in the evening, we flip on the red. So when I'm winding down, I'm reading a book, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm letting my brain understand that it's wind down time through light. And it's a set it and forget it thing, super simple, and it cues my brain.
Let me ask you, so you can just get these melatonin pills and gummies and things like that that help people to sleep. It's been all the craze, right, in the last couple of years. What about that? Can I just do that? Like, what's wrong with using those? Or would you suggest those in the red light or not those at all? Like, what's going on with these supplements?
Yeah, I have a bit of a hot take on that. So as far as with supplements, if you're looking to take a supplement as a way of bypassing, a way of taking care of your brain the way it was supposed to be taken care of, that's the first red flag I hear. So it's like, what are the things that you could actually just be doing to help you sleep better that you're bypassing, right? And the second thing is, I have had a lot of clients who ask me about melatonin, but there was a research study that was talked about. Andrew Huberman, he's a neuroscientist out of Stanford, spoke about this. And he mentioned that melatonin suppresses sex hormones, so testosterone and estrogen. And actually, melatonin is quite high in prepubescent kids because it suppresses puberty. And it is that drop off in melatonin that allows them to go through puberty. Now, there was an interesting study that was done in mice. And when they gave mice melatonin, it shrunk their testicles substantially and the hormones that were produced from there. So it does interfere with hormones. So if you are struggling with low testosterone, you have hormones, estrogen and progesterone that are out of balance. I don't know that this would be my first choice, at least without talking to someone who has extensive education and research in how melatonin affects our bodies.
Right. All the people listening, especially the men, are like, oh, nobody wants to have that affected. So good to know, right? I did not know that, right? And I think that the challenge with a lot of information that comes out is we get just little pieces of it, right? And we don't really get the full picture. We don't understand what some of the challenges that we may face. But I love what you said, is it's a red flag if we're taking some kind of action to work around the way that things should work, right? Just so that we can
override the system.
Right. For no good reason, right? Just because we're lazy and we don't want to use other methods, I think is really the thing. I think we are or have become much more complacent in autopilot and just give me the pill. I hate to say this, but I know people will just give me the pill. I don't want to work on my anxiety. I don't want to have to do meditation and breathing. I just want the pill. Just give me the pill. I mean, I don't prescribe. I'm just saying, as I talk to people, right, they're telling me that they'd rather just do that. And it's a shame because then it's not a long-term fix, right? A short-term thing that make other things worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's always too reflective of the support and education that we have. And I mean, in my own business here since 2014, and I have gone through so many stages of what I feel like has been evolution. And it's like the deeper you get into something, the more you realize there is to know. And I think it's that involvement of just like, okay, well, what is the first step? Because I think a lot of us think, if I can't do all the things, the walking, the exercise, the food, the sleep, I just don't have time for that. I shall do none of it. Or what if you looked at this as a lifelong journey? It's like, okay, what is the next step that needs to come in? And what would I need to know about that next step? And I find like so much of that, like learning about melatonin was something I didn't know until a couple of years ago. And I've been doing this a while. And I think it's that layering approach and just allowing yourself to be curious.
That's great. How do you feel talking about energy and getting rid of this brain fog? So since we're learning some new things from you, so people talk about juicing, right? Or going on a water fast, and not eating and letting your body sort of cleanse itself out. What is your knowledge base around those types of practices to help to overall gain energy and lift that brain fog from those methods?
Yeah. Well, I'm never going to say something doesn't work because I'm sure there's someone out there who has had amazing results with it. Right. And so I always speak from my experience and I'm working with my clients is I am a really big fan of believing that the body was designed to do everything it needs to do. And you have an organ called a liver that is designed for detoxing us specifically. And if we didn't have a liver, maybe there might be room for detoxes. So I ask instead, like, what do we do to nourish the body and the liver so that it performs so that we don't need to do these type of fasts? And as far as when it comes to juicing and stuff like that, like definitely you're probably getting some nutrients in there, but the counter side of that conversation is looking at what it does to your blood sugar, because when it's just fruit or it's just vegetables, you are getting a very isolated high dose of carbohydrates. I call them naked carbohydrates when you just eat them, no proteins, no fats. I love carbs, but when you eat them by themselves, they cause blood sugar spikes. And when you get a blood sugar spike, it then crashes. And with that goes attention, focus, alertness, and brain fog comes in. So I'm looking at, there's always pros and cons to everything. But when it comes to like detoxes, we have a liver. When it comes to juice, things like that, I would want to make sure it's balanced. And I think when you said about the water fast, that kind of goes into a different territory because fasting is a way of building resilience, right? It's an added stress on the body to encourage regeneration. I don't think fasting is for everyone. And for women at certain times of the month, definitely not appropriate. However, there is definitely a place in that in terms of rebuilding a gut that has been affected by antibiotics. There are definitely case uses for sure.
Okay, right. I've heard a lot of things about gut health, right? And that's one of our major issues and causes for inflammation. So if we were to talk about things that we could do to build and keep our liver healthy and to keep a good balance in our gut, what would some things that we could do for those types of things?
Here's a really simple one, and this will depend on how far along you are in your health journey. But let's just say right now, everything feels messy and you don't know where to start. Take one meal a day. Look at your plate and ask yourself, did everything on this plate come from the ground at some point or have a mother? And what that's looking at is, are these real whole foods? Because as soon as you start mixing in their processed foods, whether that is sugar, flour, baked, fried, you start introducing other variables like seed oils, like things that cause fluctuations in blood sugar, which lead to inflammation. So by taking a whole food approach, it allows us to start supporting the body with food that we were actually intended to eat. It wasn't made in a factory. It wasn't made in a oven. It was like, did it come from the ground or have a mother? Start with one meal a day and get good at that. Then move on.
Right. Okay. All right. And that's good for our liver as well? Or is there something specific that we can use for liver health?
Yeah. So that specifically is out of my scope. So I don't want to specifically say something to that. But having said that, I think just whole foods in general is the energy that our body needs. I want it to come from real food.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. We're getting everything in here. One more question. I'm going through like all my little nutrition hacks over the years that I've learned. So one of the things that people talk about is acidic and non-acidic foods, right? And to eat the foods that are acidic are sort of not, those whole foods are not good for you. And the things that are non-acidic are good for you. Is that also something that you follow and recommend?
Yeah, you know what I think? I think no matter what approach you take, whether you're looking at the acidity of foods, whether you're looking at how processed they are, I think they all come back to agreeing on the same thing. It's whole foods, right? Because you said the acidity is from the processed nature. And so I think that if you peel away the names of diets, the marketing, the branding, the ways to sell products, I think most ways of eating agree on fundamental things. We stay hydrated, we eat whole foods, we eat satiating foods, we repair our body. Like, I think that that's what they all focus on. I think just everything else is meant to sell you something you need when it's all really the same.
Right. Well, that's a great point, right? If you strip out all the marketing and everything, that's true, right? That it's just coming back, and we come back full circle around to what the main issue is, that it creates inflammation in the body, and our objective is to reduce the inflammation.
Correct. You got it.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm interested. One of the things that we talk about around productivity and focus. So I'm just interested, what's your definition of productivity and why?
For me, productivity is being able to move the big tasks forward that actually have impact and being able to get them done within the time that I want to get them done in. So for me, like if I know that in a day I have 3 hours of available time to work, that I am optimally using those 3 hours and spending that time on the biggest task, not just on the busy work.
Right. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you feel like people need to know that I didn't bring up yet?
You know what? Maybe not that something you didn't ask, but a mindset shift that I'd invite your listeners to consider. I'm a firm believer that your brain is the biggest asset you have, more than your career, more than your business, more than your bank account, whatever it is. Because if you aren't able to have your health, if you aren't able to have your brain, have you ever been really sick and you're laying on the couch and it doesn't matter what your job is doing? You just want your health back. So my question is, like, what would be possible for you if you felt better than you did today? And then to not wait until your back is up against a wall to take action on that. Don't wait until you're sick or you're so foggy that you can't get out of bed in the morning to do something about it. It doesn't have to be big. Just start now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hear that, everybody? Start now. And we heard you can start with one meal, making sure that it's whole foods. You can start with the quality of your sleep. Those are two really simple things that you can do immediately today already for your next meal and your next sleep. So how can people reach you, Tanessa, and find out more information about you and how they could work with you or any of your materials?
Yeah. So if you like the short form content, like the carousels and the reels, I'm on Instagram at Tanessa Shears, really responsive if you want to come say hi in the DMs. But if you're looking for more of a deep dive, I have a playbook called 12 Ways to Biohack Your Energy. And it's specifically if you're wanting to wake up and have what I feel are productive mornings and energy in your business. And I've put them in a playbook. And the nice thing is every one of them is linked to a podcast episode I've done that deep dives on that topic, should you really want to understand the why behind it and not just the surface what to do, because I'm always motivated by the why. But you can grab that for free on my website at TanessaShears.com. There's a little tab at the top that says free training, and you can grab that there.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
And thank you all for being here and being committed to feeling better, to being able to be more focused and more purposeful and intentional about what it is that you're working towards. And that means taking care of this vessel that we are in. And so do it. Start now. Tanessa had some really great tips today, maybe dispelled some myths and just put us on the right track. So start today. My name is Penny Zinker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.